Shalom. It's your brother Yarag, giving all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakodash, for giving me the spirit that's in this message. And I have another update here. Uh, this is just more news going on with the heat, that's going on, World War III. It says here, U.S. renews sanctions against Iran's nuclear program, threatens economic pressure despite calls to lift restrictions amid pandemic. And so this is just the U.S., for you brothers that don't know, putting more and more sanctions on Iran, which we all know is going to play a major, major war in World War III, also known as the War of Armageddon in the Book of Revelation. And I'll just read what more shenanigans the U.S. is doing and getting into. It says the U.S. has renewed sanctions curtailing Iran's nuclear program for another 60 days as Iran issued pleas for the U.S. to ease its pressure campaign during the COVID-19 pandemic to avoid humanitarian economic crisis. So you see the U.S. is still antagonizing Iran, and they've been doing it via the U.S. dollar, putting sanctions on them, putting them in all kind of like financial straits, and it's all war rhetoric. And in another lesson, maybe I'll get a map just to show you how many military bases that they have posted around Iran. One of the reasons they took over Iraq, and they're in Syria, and Israel, and all these places around, like the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, is to basically, intimidate them. It says we will continue to use a full range of our diplomatic and economic tools to constrain Iran's destabilizing proliferation activities. This is the U.S. State Department saying this. While they're going through this COVID-19 pandemic, they're still, keeping the pressure on. It says the U.S. reimposed sweeping sanctions on Iran after Washington unilaterally left the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action on Iran's nuclear program in 2018. The move was blasted by the EU, Russia, and China, who were also signatories of the agreement. U.S. President Donald Trump claimed that the Islamic Republic was secretly violating the JCPOA. However, the global nuclear watchdog and the International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed at the time that Iran was complying with the deal. So all these sanctions are in the effort to try to tell Iran, which is a sovereign country, that they can't have any nuclear energy, basically, out of fear that they might produce nuclear weapons, which is bullshit and hypocrisy because, the U.S. has one of the largest stockpiles of nuclear weapons, This is another article on here. RT says U.S. sanctions on life-saving drugs are leading Iran into a humanitarian catastrophe as pandemic rages. So, man, there's only so much that, Iran is going to take, and they're in lockstep with Russia and China on that regard. It says after the U.S. ramped up sanctions aiming to torpedo Iran's oil trade, Tehran, which is the capital in Iran, started scaling down its commitments under the JCPOA. Iranian officials pledged to return to the agreement if the EU provides the nation with sanctions relief. And America has, they're in league with Europe, to keep the pressures of the sanctions on. And all of this is going to crumble once that U.S. dollar goes belly up, man. Once you see that they're converting their currency, the other nations aren't going to take it, all hell's going to break loose. And that's when you're going to see World War III really, really take off. It's beautiful how all these things are just constantly, every day, there's just more and more news. As Yahweh Shai said, there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. And you're literally just seeing it every day, There's more and more, just the temperature of this place is just coming to a boil, It says Iran, which insists that the U.S. sanctions are illegal under international law, has been warning that Washington's maximum pressure campaign undermines the ability to fight the COVID-19 pandemic and hurts regular Iranians. And that's true. And once you get the regular Iranians, not just the government officials, to support the government, man, that's when you're going to have the whole country up in arms, ready to support war against America, And it says Iran Foreign Minister Mohammed Javad Zarif said that sanctions are leading to a humanitarian catastrophe as they hamper Iranians' access to life-saving drugs, man. And I'll just get here it is, Ezekiel 38. And it says, "And the word of the Most High came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, in the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord, thy power. Behold, I am against thee, O Gog and Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal." And he says, "I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, with horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords." So the Most High is forcing all of these nations to go into conflict with each other, you know? And it says the next verse, the first country that's mentioned, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with the shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. And you know what the U.S. did in Libya with Gaddafi. It basically overthrew him as well. So, you know, the conclusion of the whole thing is that the Most High is putting a very warlike spirit in these other nations towards Babylon the Great, man. So we're seeing more and more of these things come to pass. And, call halal Yahweh Bashib Yahweh Shai. We're just, allowing us to see these things come to pass, man. So shalom to you, brothers. The hopeful elect, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. We're in the last days, brothers. So hopefully you brothers were edified. Shalom.